Hey, it's Charlie here with the Lakers Nation Philippines podcast, and this is the post-trade deadline and pre-All-Star pod for you. I wanted to close out with the trade deadline talk, where I'm glad that we didn't trade for Kyle Kuzma. And these are the several trade scenarios that you have, right? Or had at that particular time. You had Kyle Kuzma and Danny Green for Marcus Morris. Now, for me to justify that, it would have to be Marcus Morris, and let's say for some particular reason we had the opportunity to have Mo Harkless, right? Well, obviously Harkless is with the Clippers, and I understand, but I'm just using Harkless as an example. That would help soften it, but at that particular point, I wouldn't even sign off on that trade because you're losing two key players who have been groomed for this season. And you have to keep in mind, for those who are complaining about Danny Green is from the spirit of Robert Horry, maybe even James Posey, both Celtics and Miami, James Posey, Shane Battier, and also a combination of like Rick Fox and Derek Fisher, right? He shows up when he needs to. Right now during the regular season, he's inconsistent, but you know when it comes time to pressure, he's going to step up. He's won a ring with San Antonio, which is a very good, almost like farm type system for developing players. Also, he's won with Kawhi Leonard, and it's still a continuum of what the Raptors were doing correctly. If you look at the Toronto Raptors, they're second in the East? So I feel giving up Danny Green and Kyle Kuzma was bad. The other trade rumor was Avery Bradley, DeMarcus Cousins, and Kuzma. The only thing I would have not liked about that is because you're still missing a plug-in player for the second unit. Because this is what I mean. So you lose Avery Bradley, DeMarcus Cousins, and Kyle Kuzma. Who do you have off the bench? Let's just say your starters are going to be KCP, Danny Green, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and JaVale McGee. Great. That's because Bradley's gone. So off the bench, now you're limited to Alex Caruso, Marcus Morris, and Dwight Howard. So those are the three reliable ones that you can have in rotation for an 8-man rotation. In regards to Quinn Cook, Troy Daniels, they're okay, but they don't play enough to be a consistent factor for the team. I personally feel I would love to see Quinn Cook and Alex Caruso play together. I've said this before, you cannot pay for championship medal. Someone like Quinn Cook, now that he's been with the Lakers, you can further observe he's great as a ball handler. He's not a dribble penetrating guard, but he's also great in the perimeter. And you know, he has this weird off scramble cadence to his dribbling, which has been great because you'll see highlights of him doing well playing with Steph Curry. And it feels so tense when you watch him play with Golden State as a replay or a highlight, but he's really good on the scramble. And he's good not only with the three, but 15 to 17 feet, he's great. But Troy Daniels will also have games like that where he'll do decent and then sometimes he'll play like a knucklehead. But I prefer Quinn Cook. So I'd rather have Quinn Cook, Alex Caruso, and then now you have Marcus Morris, and I guess Dwight Howard at that point. But who do you play? I know Jared Dudley is a great option, and I'll talk about Jared Dudley, how he can be used in a little bit, but I was content that you didn't trade Bradley, Cousins, and Kuzma for Marcus Morris. Because in the end, you're still missing that player at the 3. Now, with Danny Green in a second rounder, there was another rumor that was existent. I would have pulled that. Absolutely in a heartbeat, and I'll tell you why. Avery Bradley, KCP, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and JaVale McGee as your starters. And then off the bench, you can still have Caruso, Cook, Daniels, Rondo for your guards. And then you still retain Kyle Kuzma. And then you plug in Marcus Morris at the 4. And then you still have Dwight Howard. That I was all about. I'm totally about giving up Danny Green because we still have Caruso, Cook, Daniels, and Rondo to back up KCP and Avery Bradley. And that's the only reason why. Right now, the way Kyle Kuzma has been looking, I don't trust him. There's times where he looks engaged, there's times where he looks lost. And you know, the best thing, what I could compare him to is with Derek Fisher, Rick Fox, and Robert Horry, they still contributed on the little things. It's like the hockey assist, the assist to the assist. The Robert Ory poke that doesn't show up in his stat, but if someone's backing him up like Rasheed Wallace, he would poke the ball off Rasheed Wallace. Kyle Kuzma just needs to show hustle. There are times where I feel like he's hustling and I go, you know what? I had the right thought of keeping him. But there's certain times where I look at Kyle Kuzma and I go, dude, where is your effort? Where's your focus? Because it looks like this team, as far as for the coaching staff, they're already coming up with a fine-tuned rotation, right? They already have a decided team strength, which is defense. And all you can give at this point, Kyle Kuzma, if your shot isn't being made, then you hustle. You grab the rebound. You assist. You cut to the basket. Take a look at what Alex Caruso's done with his career. This guy was in the G League and he was a call-up for like 2-3 years for the Lakers. And look at him now. I think he and LeBron definitely have chemistry within each other. There was that one alley-oop dunk that Alex Caruso threw to LeBron James. It's very Dwayne Wade and LeBron James in Miami. And I'm not comparing Alex Caruso to Dwayne Wade, but I'm just saying the chemistry's there. There was a point with Denver, and I tweeted this. LeBron had the ball at the high post. AD was stuck at the three-point line. And Alex saw it and he cut to the basket, and then LeBron gave him the assist because he cut to the basket and Alex Caruso had a reverse layup. You look at Dwight Howard. This guy was a clown. I was so doubtful if Dwight Howard was going to work, but you know what? Mentally, he checked in. And at this point, it's on Kyle Kuzma. It's not on the coaching staff. The coaching staff has an egalitarian method of coaching for offense. So you just have to be active. Cut to the basket. Make that play. Don't always think to score. If you think to score, maybe drive to the basket, get within 8 feet, and then pass the ball. Because we've seen his skill set. And the reason why I say it like this is because I was for keeping Kyle Kuzma. And I hope he proves me correct in wanting to keep him. Now, talking about Marcus Morris joining the Clippers, I'm on the side where it didn't hurt the Clippers. Are they better? Yes, in the sense of being able to throw another big wing for our matchup. Which, by the way, when I say I rank the Lakers third, I'm thinking of matchups. Because in the East, I think it's only the Bucks that can defeat us in a 7-game series. If you pay attention to Milwaukee, they look so relaxed. Giannis is not playing that much minutes, and the team is solidified. Absolutely solidified. So you have to keep in mind, Milwaukee, I feel, is a powerhouse in the East. I think we can defeat the Celtics because they have a crumbling mentality and mental makeup to the team. Boston, I'm still a little confident that we can defeat them. It's just when you have the lineup of Brown, Hayward, and Tatum, that's the 3 big wings that gives us problems. And by the way, Lakers fans, I know it's easy to say, well, it's still the regular season, but there is proof showing that we have problems with teams who have 2 to 3 large bigs that can give us issues. We lost to the Bucks. We lost to the Sixers. We lost to the Celtics. And we've lost twice to the Clippers. I may discount the first game because that's the first game, but still, that's something you have to worry about. Because here's the situation, guys. The Clippers can afford to actually be at that pace because you have to keep in mind Kawhi Leonard just won a championship. He knows what it takes. So does LeBron, but everyone is relying on LeBron. So the pace that the Clippers are doing, since they won 48 games without Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, is they're really pacing themselves. But with the Lakers, since we haven't won anything since 2010, we're on the uprise. Like, I remember the Lakers during Phil Jackson's tenure with Kobe Bryant and Pau Gasol. We took this Florida trip and we lost against Orlando, and Miami. And then we lost against Orlando again. And we ended up playing them in the playoffs. But the Lakers had championship pedigree. Right now, it's only LeBron. You can count Rondo, but he's too old. I think it should be Coach Rondo. At this point, at least. But in regards to Marcus Morris joining the Clippers, they've lost 2 games with Marcus Morris. But I feel as far as for a matchup against the Lakers, then the Lakers, I feel like they stand pat too much. And I'll talk about that as I grade the coaching staff, specifically Frank Vogel and Rob Pelinka. But as far as for the matchup with the Clippers versus the Lakers, I think it's a good pickup, but it's not like the end-all be-all. It's just another body to bother LeBron James. I mean, LeBron James is saying he re-injured his groin after Patrick Beverley blocked his shot. That's an excuse. And I'm not like this pro-Kobe, anti-LeBron guy. I think I've defended LeBron quite a bit. And since I'm older, I like to think I'm a little bit more objective and not in the mania of praise one player. Because I've been watching this game since the 80s. But LeBron James, you throw Patrick Beverley, you throw Kawhi, you throw PG-13, and granted, both of those guys are a little bit injured this season, but still, it's a mental makeup. Remember last year when LeBron was still playing with Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, and the rest of those guys? It's like, oh, it's going to be playoff mode. What happened? So I don't buy that. I absolutely don't buy that. But here's a lineup that I propose that they work. Let's say if it's Lou Will, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Marcus Morris Sr., and Trez, right? Then you go with KCP, James, Anthony Davis, and Dwight Howard. I think that's a worthy lineup to actually match up against them. So that's my reasoning behind the post-trade deadline where I'm happy. What I'm not happy about is what I'll talk about in conjunction to Rob Pelinka. So in regards to Rob Pelinka, what I do want to rate about Rob Pelinka, I think he's done great, especially when Kawhi was stringing us along. And, you know, in the wings, he had Danny Green, Quinn Cook, Avery Bradley, DeMarcus Cousins, and Jared Dudley on the side going, guys, just hold on. Let me see what will happen with Kawhi. And they waited on the wings, and boom, the moment they found out Kawhi Leonard spurned us to play with the Clippers, then boom, he signed those guys. That's absolutely great. With Rob Pelinka not bending towards the aforementioned bad Kuzma trades, that's absolutely great. But there is one thing with Rob Pelinka, and you guys got to keep in mind. He employed himself to be in 2 positions for the Lakers. And I don't like that in a sense because we don't know how much he's taking on, and it sounds like a lot just on the surface. Here's one pattern that's happened with Rob Pelinka twice in this season. So we were kept waiting with Kawhi. And honestly, with any good, intelligent feel of what you need to do as a GM, you already need to get to a point where, well, Kawhi, is it us or them? There's something guttural that you feel that you need to get out of your system and go, you know what? I'm going to pass on Kawhi. Because what he did to us was actually terrible. But in the same sense, that's part of the league. Look at Kobe Bryant. He was supposed to sign with the Clippers. Rest in peace, Kobe. He was supposed to sign with the Clippers. And it took someone like Jerry West to have him say, no, don't sign with Steve Ballmer. No, actually, it wasn't Steve Ballmer. It was, I don't even want to say his name because that racist tenant holder. But it took someone like Jerry West to convince Kobe. So that's something guttural that you should have picked up already. Now, here's the pattern. We have Nick Collison. He's being walked over to the Staples Center. He's with Linda Rambis and Jeannie Buss, and then he passes. But that, my friends, is a pattern. We waited for Nick Collison. Nothing happened during the trade deadline. I'm not going to reiterate the details. I wanted us to go for Markieff Morris. You give DeMarcus Cousins because the salaries match, and here's Kaycock if you want to keep a cheap big that has tons of promise. Or if you want, here's DeMarcus Cousins, here's a second rounder. Or if you want, here's DeMarcus Cousins, here's Troy Daniels, that's a lot of salary you scrap off. You're already a bottom tier team, why keep that salary? That's what I wanted. Because then our second unit could have been starting at center with Dwight Howard, Markieff Morris at power forward, Kyle Kuzma at the 3, KCP at the 2, then Caruso at the 1. That would have been my second unit. Obviously starting with Avery Bradley, Danny Green, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and JaVale McGee. But that's a pattern with Rob Pelinka. But who am I to say what is behind closed doors? So in regards to Rob Pelinka, I'm going to give him a B+. Just that pattern of waiting till the deadline, then nothing happens. That's the bad thing that took place that's been consistent. In regards to Frank Vogel, great defense. He's a fantastic media spokesman. Hey, have you seen how he handled Kobe Bryant's passing? Frank Vogel is quite masterful. Also at avoiding and deflecting questions and looking into the future. But as far as for defense, when we have this team on lockdown mode, we're great. The one thing I would hope for Frank Vogel is that he narrows down a consistent rotation. And there are signs that's coming. Because with Rondo, when he was playing well, they kept him. At the Denver game, they kept Caruso in the game, and Rondo didn't get much burn. So I feel like he's starting to hone things. And you know what? As much as I don't want Rondo to play anymore, there's nothing we can do between LeBron James and Anthony Davis. I do believe for preservation's sake, they're going to keep playing Rajon Rondo because that's who our two stars like. It's the same spirit of why we have an Antetokounmpo brother here. Right? Why do we have him? Why? Because in 2021, Giannis. I also feel with Jared Dudley and Quinn Cook, these guys need to get a little bit more burn. With Dudley, I'd like to plug him in at the 4 and play defense against the 5s, the 4s and 5s, because he's bigger and heavier and slower. But he's great at staying down low because he doesn't have any verticality anymore. Not that he was ever known for that, but he's great at standing his ground, a la Kwame Brown and his former big Cavs. I'd like to see him play as a roamer 3 on offense. So that way Kuzma is a big to throw on another big perimeter player. So there's a lot of positive signs in regards to Frank Vogel, especially these last 2 games. I saw it. I thought, great, let me observe. Why is Rajon playing a lot? Because he's scoring. He's doing well. But Caruso was playing a lot against Denver. Great. So that's awesome. I think Frank Vogel is slowly honing his lineup. I don't mind the 10-man rotation, but I like having 10. I would totally add Dudley. Even if it's like 8 minutes a game, he plays in 4-minute spurts twice, just to have that 3 option. Now, in regards to the other remaining players, 3 that are notable. Well, I don't say notable, but it's the 3 best out of the low-end choices. There's J.R. Smith, Dion Waiters out of the 2. And I would go with Waiters out of all of them, out of J.R. versus Dion Waiters, because he's been more active, and I like how he can create shots. JR does know LeBron, but you know what? He's been inactive, and then whenever you have both their mentalities, they're both knuckleheads, JR and Waiters, I'd rather go with the more active one. And you know Waiters has this will to drive to the basket and score when he's feeling himself. So I'd rather go with Waiters. Now, there's Lance Stevenson, who's also played with Frank Vogel. I might even choose him above J.R. Smith, because at least he's been active in China. So my order would be Waiters, Lance Stevenson, and then JR. But really, for the best, it's Mo Harkless. If he gets bought out, now the New York Knicks could spurn us, buy him out March 2nd instead of March 1st, which means we won't be able to add him to the playoff roster. But really, it's Harkless. And if we're playing that game, I would go with Harkless first, Waiters second, Lance Stevenson third, J.R. Smith last. So to wrap up and close, I think it's time to judge the Lakers after the All-Star break. You could totally tell with several teams that they're just playing lackadaisical. They're mentally not there, but I'm glad the Lakers closed out with 2 wins in a row going into the season, and especially against Denver. If we would have lost to Denver, it's still not the end of the world, but they were down 3 men. We're going into the All-Star break, and there were so many plays where LeBron even switched off into guarding Jokic, which I thought, like, okay, good, there's life. And the other thing we need to consider is that maybe losing to the top teams could be their posturing of load management. And the only reason why I wouldn't buy that is that we were really close when it came to the Clippers. And I do believe we weren't too far off with the Bucks. And same thing with against the Sixers. Against the Celtics, we were just blown out. But there's a lot of good things, guys, to look forward to the second half. We're still second in the league and number 1 in the Western Conference. We're 3-4 games ahead of Denver, so we're doing great. So that's this week's episode for the Lakers Nation Philippines podcast. It's the post-trade deadline pre-All-Star pod, and thank you so much for listening. Take care.